Hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to your video lesson on area and circumference of circles. Your video lesson target is that I can find area and circumference of a circle. So these are some vocabulary words you need to know. Circle, center, diameter, circumference, radius, and pi. So here's a diagram. Might be a good idea to either listen and then pause and write down, or pause and draw the diagram and then listen. So this is a circle. This distance around a circle is your circumference. So if you wanted to, again, fence something or figure out a trim, you would use circumference. The diameter is the distance across the circle through the center. So this line here is your diameter. It goes all the way across through that center. Your radius, however, is the distance from the center of a circle to any point. So it could be there, 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 there. The radius is half of the diameter. Or you could say that the diameter is 2 times the radius. You'll need that later. Center of the circle is here. Our formula for circumference, to find it, is the circumference of a circle is equal to the diameter times pi, or 2 times its radius times pi. So when you're given the diameter, generally you'll use this one. When you're given the radius, you'll use this one. Something to remember about pi. Pi is what we use to find circles, and it's approximately 3.14159, and it keeps going. This is an irrational number that does not end or repeat, does not terminate or repeat. It can be represented by 22/7 as well. Sometimes you'll be asked to use your pi button on your calculator, or 3.14, or that 22/7 to represent that number. Okay? So we're going to practice finding the circumference of each circle. Reading the directions, it tells me to use 3.14 for pi, and it tells me to round to the nearest tenth if necessary. One awesome thing to do all the time is to estimate. Okay? So I'm going to write down my formula first. I see that I'm given the radius, and again, you might need to pause, write down the shapes if you want, or write down the important information. Try it, then check back in. Or watch me try it, then pause and write down what you need. So if I'm looking for the circumference of this shape, I'm given radius. So I'm going to use the formula 2 pi r. I take the value I'm given and replace it. So my circumference will be 2 pi times my radius of 4. I'm going to estimate soon here when I get a little further. So I have c is equal to, I can do multiplication in any order. I generally don't like to use my calculator right away. So I'm going to take 2 times 4, which is 8. I'm going to multiply that by pi. The directions, I could type pi in my calculator, but the directions were to use 3.14. So I'm doing 8 times 3.14. Estimation, well, I know 8 times 3 is 24. So my circumference should be a little bit more than 24 because of that extra 14/100ths. So when I do that, I get 25 and 12/10 feet, but my directions say to round to the tenths. So I look to the hundredths. Since it's less than 5, I'm going to write 25 and 1/10 feet is approximately my circumference. Try this one and notice that you're given now the diameter. So when you're given the diameter, it might just be easiest to save yourself a step and use the formula circumference equals pi times diameter. You're going to notice that I'm going to work vertically and show my work. The same is expected from you. So my circumference is pi times my diameter of 63. Remember, the directions wanted me to use 3 and 14/100ths, pi rounded, times 63. Again, of course, you can use your calculator, make an estimate if you'd like. I know 60 times 3 would be 180, so it's going to be quite a bit, a little bit more. So when I do that, I get my circumference is 197 and 82/100ths inches, but rounding to the tenths place, it's approximately 197 and 8/10 inches. Very nice and neat, working down. Please do the same. Here's a couple more to try. So the top one, finding the circumference when I'm given. I always write down when I'm given a radius of 21. So I first write the formula I'm going to use. In this case, I'm going to use 2 pi r. I plug in the value that I know, which is 21. Again, I don't like to plug it all in the calculator at once, so I'm going to do my numbers first. Since it's multiplication, it can go in any order. So I have 42 times pi. I should be working down, but obviously that's in the way. So here I'm going to use 42 times pi. Is that different when I use 42 times 3.14? Let's see. Slightly. So in this case, I'm deciding that I'm going to use pi for my answer. So I get circumference is 131.9468. It's going to keep going, so I can round approximately 131 9/10 inches. Had I used 3.14, my answer would have been 131.88, which, notice, if I rounded, would still be the same thing. So it just depends on if you round sooner or later. Next couple are going to challenge you to use 22 over 7 for pi instead. So I always determine, do I have my diameter or my radius, which will determine which formula I decide to use. So I'm going to use pi. In place of pi, I'm going to do 22 over 7 times my diameter of 70. Multiplying fractions, I put them over 1. So I can cross cancel here. 7 goes into 7 once. 7 goes into 70 10 times. Multiply across, I get 220 inches. Over here, I'm given a radius of 7/8 feet. So I'm going to use 2 pi r. So the circumference is 2. My pi is going to be 22/7 times my radius of 7/8. Since these are both fractions, I'm going to simplify these first. 7 goes into 7 once and once. And then I could leave it like that or simplify again. So I have 2 over 1 still times 22 over 8. I can cancel again. 2 goes in here once. 2 goes in 8 4 times. So I have 22 over 4, which is the same as 5 1/2 feet. That's the distance around. Now, area. Okay, so area is going to be the space inside of a circle. Area of a circle equals the product, meaning multiplication, of pi and the square of the radius. The formula looks like this: pi r squared. Please remember that squaring is not the same as multiplying by 2. It's multiplying my number by itself. Here's an image to help you. Kind of breaks the circle into parts, which is at your radius, and then half of the diameter. If you spread that out, notice, and then put them together, you have a parallelogram where your radius is like your height, half your circumference is your base. So if I have half my circumference equals, or times the radius, it's a little backwards, can't write that out. It's like area equals base times height, that way. So here I'm going to find the area of a circle with a radius of 2 inches. On these ones, I'm going to decide to use pi, the pi button, on my calculator. If you have the TI-30, it is generally on the left-hand side, a couple under the second key. So I write my formula first. I'm given a radius of 2, so I plug that value in. So I have area is my pi, 2 times 2, because it's a number times itself. So 2 squared is 4. Here's where I can plug into my calculator. It should be a little over 12. So I get area is 12.566. I'm using the pi button, remember. And I get the area is approximately, I'm going to round to the tenths, 12 and 6/10 inches squared. Remember, square inches, because right here we did 2 inches times 2 inches for inches squared. A couple more and then you're on your way. Find the area of a circle with a radius of 2.5 centimeters round to the tenths. So I write my formula, plug in the value I know, which is my radius, square that number, really meaning 3.2 centimeters times 3.2 centimeters, not times 2. So when I get that, I get pi times 10 and 24 hundredths. Using my pi button on my calculator, I multiply those for 32, and it's going to continue. So then I approximate to my tenths, which means I look to the hundredths. That rounds it up. 32 and 2/10 centimeters squared. One more when given the coin of Wisconsin, a quarter, when it looks like you are given the diameter because it's all the way across the circle. So I'm looking for the area, which is pi r squared, but notice I'm given a diameter, but not a radius. So what I know is that diameter is twice the radius. So if I know the diameter is 24, that means that if I divide by 2, I'll have half of that, which is my radius. So I plug that value in. Again, my area is pi times 144, because I squared, not times 2. Area is 452,389. Rounding again to the tenths, look to the hundredths. Area is approximately 452 and 4/10 millimeters squared. It's not so bad. Notice you do really well if you know what parts, what they mean, and if you plug them in and work down. Please stop trying to write all over your paper. Very last two, it's going to help you draw images. If you feel ready, go for it, and then fast forward and see if you got them right. So, circular swimming pool with a diameter of 30. Draw yourself a picture. How many square feet? That tells me that I'm looking for area. So, I'm going to do area equals pi r squared, given a diameter of 30, which means my radius is half of that at 15. Area equals pi times 15 squared. Area is 225 times pi. Area is 706,858. So area is approximately rounded. We're going to keep with our 10th seam. 706 and 9/10 square feet. Very last one, and this one is a good word problem. Drew one circle with a radius of 7 centimeters and another circle with a radius of 10. Find the approximate difference, which means subtraction, between the circles. So that means we have to find the area of one circle, the area of another circle, and then we'll end up subtracting them. So I have my area is pi times my radius squared, which is 49 times pi, which is approximately 153 and 9/10 square centimeters. Whereas our circle with a radius of 10 will represent approximately 314 and 2/10 square centimeters. Find the difference means to subtract. So I'm going to do that the larger circle is how much bigger than the smaller circle in area. Bring my decimal down. Do some subtraction. And I get it's 163 and 3/10 square centimeters difference. So approximately, this one looks like they wanted us to round to the nearest whole number, which would be h. All right, hopefully you got a lot of good examples in your notes. Come with questions. Really, really work on being organized. Don't be stubborn, and try your best. See you soon.